Hello and welcome to this channel. My name is Janet. I'm working through the King James's Bible. Today I am in part 1 of the book of Chronicles and I'm working through chapters 12 to 15 today. So I will be summarising each chapter. Get comfortable and we'll get started. So today as we begin chapter 12, we open with David. Now David at this point is a fugitive. He is running from King Saul who wants to kill him. And he's on his own. He's gone to this cave in Ziklag. Now some mighty men hear that David is there, and obviously he has a reputation of being a warrior because he has overcome Goliath, the Philistine warrior. And these mighty men that come to David are cast outs themselves. They obviously don't feel aligned with King Saul, and they're feeling on the run even though they're not. So they come to him and they want to join him. Now these mighty men were from the Benjamin tribe, which is where King Saul himself originates. Now these mighty men that came to David were of warrior stature. They were trained in war. They were good archers. They were good at throwing stones. These were all the qualities that David would need to build an army. So these men come to him and suddenly he's not on his own. So they were the start of King David's army building. Now we get a list of the army itself. So it starts with Chief Ahiezer. Then it covers 30 mighty men. We also learn that some Gadites from the Gad tribe join, and many of them had a lot of different talents that could be used within the army that he was building. Now these men from the Gad tribe really wanted to be a part of David's army, but they were on the other side of the Jordan River, and it says that they went right across the river when it had burst its banks. It was very dangerous, and yet these men were able to cross it. Then we learn that more loyal soldiers from both the Benjamin and the Judah tribe come over to join David. Now he must have had his doubts about these men because he asked them, now do you come in peace? Or are you here to basically betray me and put me to my enemies? Because he said, if you come in peace, great, you can be a part of the team. But if not, may God judge you. But they assure him, no, they are not here to betray him. They want to be loyal to him because they see how God is working through him. So David welcomes them and he makes some of them captain of his armies. We then go to a point in where David was about to go to war with the Philistines against Saul. Now this was a time because he'd moved over into the Philistine area basically to be safe and away from Saul himself. Now the Manasseh tribe, which were part of his army, did not want to get involved. They were saying, no, this is not right. So it lists those men here, the ones that were saying, we do not want to be in this battle fighting with Saul, who is really an Israelite overall, although they were in conflict together. It's like they didn't want to be part of the Philistines. But they were saved really because the masters, the chiefs of the armies of the Philistine did not want David in their camp. They felt that he would be a traitor and that they would be in danger of being given to their enemies. So he was kicked out of there, and luckily enough, they didn't go to war. So many Manasseh men again joined David's army, so it's really starting to build up now. And once David becomes king, a huge army is gathered from all of the 12 tribes of Israel. So he has a huge army now, and he is now king of Israel. So a full list you can find here by checking out the link under this video for chapter 12 or checking it out in your Bible, Chronicles chapter 12, and it will be the last few paragraphs. Chapter 13 is bringing the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. That's where David wants it. He wants it right by his side. Now David doesn't just do it for himself. He checks in with God and God agrees, that he should bring the Ark to Jerusalem. He also checks with the people and they agree. They want the Ark there too. So everybody is on board. So the Ark at the moment is in Kirjath Jearim and it's to be moved to Jerusalem with an ox and cart. They put it on a cart, which is not how God would do it. He has it all written down in the book of Moses how the ark was to be transported. But regardless, there is music playing and they're moving along and transporting it on this cart. Now during the journey, the ox stumbles, and obviously the ark almost falls. And the Levite, who is at the front driving the cart, he's one of the priests, Uzzah, he puts his hand on the ark to stop it falling, and he is immediately killed by God, because that is a huge no-no. They are not meant to touch it. Now, when King David hears of this, he's afraid. He's like, oh my goodness, don't bring the ark any further, leave it, take it to Obed-Edom, who is a Gittite, but he is part of the Levite ancestry. Now, it stays with him for 3 months because David is wanting to see what's going to happen now if he leaves the ark there. And while it is there, Obed-Edom's house is blessed. So this closes chapter 13. So we swiftly move on to chapter 14, and this is the relationship between King David and King Hiram of Tyre, who was a fine craftsman, and he had a lot of craftspeople in his team. So he worked alongside with David to build his beautiful palace for himself and his wives. And David did gather more wives in Jerusalem, and again he is going outside of the laws of God by marrying so many women. But regardless, his family is starting to increase, and so in this chapter we list all of the sons that are born in Jerusalem. We next move into David's battle with the Philistines, and in this process he is always asking God, should I go into battle? God says yes, he'll deliver them into his hands, so he's following his orders, and that's what happens. Now this all happened in the valley of Rephaim, and although the Philistines had failed to win that war, they come back again and attack, and David again goes to God, do I go to war with the Philistines? God says yes, and he gives him clear directions on how to approach this, that again he will deliver the Philistines into his hands. This is a huge battle, and David again has success and wins, because the Philistines flee from Gibeon to as far as Gaza, and this is huge in the nations around him. So his name and his reputation now, he's becoming famous. And this closes chapter 14. So in chapter 15 we go back to the Ark of the Covenant, which is to be moved to Jerusalem still. Now remember, it is with Obed-Edom. So he has it in his home. They all agree this time they're going to transport it, but they're going to follow those laws and rules and the way it should be done in the traditional way by God. So David has prepared a resting place for it in the city of David, ready for its arrival. And he explains to the Levites they've got to carry it the right way, they've got to have those poles, and it's got to be carried by foot, no cart involved. And then here we get a list of names of who was involved in carrying the ark to Jerusalem. So as planned, the ark is moved to Jerusalem in the correct order. So there is a huge celebration that gets underway as the arrival of the ark is coming. And a list of all of the musicians who rejoiced are listed in this chapter. And the instruments were stringed instruments, harps, trumpets, and cymbals. We also get a list of doorkeepers here, which were basically the security that made sure nobody touched or placed a hand on that ark. So the ark was collected from Obed-Edom's house, and all of these people, the Levites were surrounding it, and this musician, so there's like music was it's moving. It must have been quite a grand event. And they sacrificed 7 bulls and 7 rams as offerings to the Lord. And King David and their priests are all in their official robes and ephods. And so it will arrive in Jerusalem, and there's just big celebrations that are going on. And at the very end of this chapter, we see that Michal, which was David's wife, she is up in a window looking down. Now she is King Saul's daughter that married David. And she is looking down on David with despise in her heart. She's not loving him because she thinks that he is basically not doing as a king should do. You know, he should be more regal in his approach to things, and he's sort of shimmying around and dancing, and she's looking down and judging him, I guess. That's what this kind of final ending portrays to us. So these are the chapters for today that have been covered. I hope you found this useful. I've just given a snapshot of each chapter, what's kind of in it, so that you can get an idea of what's covered. And I mean, if a chapter interests you, then I do advise you to get your Bible out and have a good read so you get all the full details, how it was laid out. Because there's so much information here, and they might just be quick factual in the way the Bible's written out. It's quite to the point, you know, there's not a lot of in between detail, which can lead your mind into different places of what could have happened or what maybe have happened or how somebody might have been feeling. You know, your mind, that's what I find anyway, does that when you're reading certain things. So thank you for your time and for listening, and I'll be back again tomorrow, moving on in the book of Chronicles, part 1. Hope to see you here again soon. Take care now. Bye.